welcome to Old White Merc Guy. My name's Scott. My son Brandon is doing the filming today. And we're just doing like a little introduction thing into some of these old Mercs and Evinrudes and Johnsons. There'll be different procedures of what we'll do. We have rebuilding carburetors. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, but sometimes I watch these videos and there's you can flip a carburetor over and you see the float's level, and then you flip it over and then you get your float drop. And I don't always see that in the videos, and that's crucial when you're rebuilding them. So one of the things that I'm really into, and that's hence the name Old White Mercs, is these old started in '59 was the first year for when Mercury went to them being all white. They got a '58 Mercury Mark 28 here, which has really got a cool, I love the front cover on this. This is a '58 22 horse, and they called it a Mark 28. These had what they call them auto tranny motors. They're quite interesting. There's a part of a transmission here. They're just laying here, and it goes to another motor. But so I'm going to get into explaining these in some future videos, how to rebuild these, how they go together, and from start to finish, because there's a couple videos out there. Some don't show the whole aspect of putting these things together, and they're a little bit complicated when you go to do it for your first time. It's kind of a tough motor to do for a first time thing. But the first one I got was right here. It's a 1960. These are all 1960. These three right here. 100, which is a 10 horse, 15 horse, and this is a 22. Same motor as this. Was referred to as the Super Hurricane motor, the 22s. And this one, my brother found this down in Florida, and I was looking for something like this, and he called me up and said, "Oh, yeah, my neighbor's got one. It was like a yard ornament or something," and he wanted like $300 for it. I said, "No, I'm not interested, but boy, I really wanted to get it." And just to see what they were about, and I was kind of forewarned that they were trouble to work on. But anyway, I got it apart, and got stuck at a certain point. I got the transmission out, I had the power head off, and I was stuck there. And there's I should have probably got one out, but there's a locking nut that's inside there. You can make a socket for it, take a socket, cut it. There's 4 notches in it. I actually had bought the tool from a website. I since then have gathered more of the tools, but this is what it looks like. This one's got the 2 notches on it. Goes into this collar. It's reverse thread, and you take that collar out, and then you can get to your water pump. But like I say, we'll get into that at some point. It's probably actually we'll get into that's gonna be some of the first videos I'm gonna do. I know not too many guys really work on these or find them. I'm in Western Massachusetts. Most of these, I think I got 2 out of New Hampshire, and the rest were up towards the Rochester area, Syracuse, out that way, and New York. So that's where the brunt of them came from. And I got them fairly cheap. I ended up getting this one that was out of Florida. The guy said, "Yeah, just give me $75 for it." So my brother grabbed it, brought it up here. I think I paid $100 for this one. This one was $75. You can get them kind of cheap because they're a pain. They're kind of a pain to work on. But I'll tell you, once you do a couple of them, I think they're fairly simple. They really run really well when you get them going too. So I enjoy them, and they get a lot of looks out on the lake. The old timers, they get a kick out of seeing them run. I'm in my early 60s. I don't even remember seeing one of these, and I used to spend my summers on a lake out in New York State that my grandfather had. He had an old cottage there, and we just had my brother and I, he's a year younger. We had a lot of fun out there. I'll show you a motor after that we used as kids, and it was just a lot of fun. And I don't remember ever seeing any of these, and if I did, it was maybe one. But so this was the first one I got running, the 15 horse. It was also the first thing over 10 horsepower I got to run on a 14-foot Starcraft that I got, and so I was curious to see how fast it was going to be, and it scooted along pretty good. I had some issues with the prop, but I thought the transmission was slipping. Again, back to these springs real quick. They tighten up on a hub in here, and I thought the thing was slipping. And I tried a different lubricant for it, lubriplate they call it. That's what a lot of guys are running in these. I got a tube over that way I can show you, but like I say, we'll do a video on it. But I thought it was slipping, and it kept getting worse. And so finally I took the thing apart, and I realized I never pulled the propeller off of it to put some never sees on there and make sure there's not any fishing line in there that could ruin a seal. And found out that somebody had drilled the propeller and stuck some type of pin in there to keep it from slipping. So I was like, well, there's the problem right there. So live and learn. But I was able to actually find a new prop on eBay. That's where you're going to find a lot of parts for these. Some stuff's still being made. A lot of it's not. MarineEngines.com is a great website. They show diagrams there. They have a lot of NLA, no longer available parts there. You can usually get through and get the thing done. So with that, we got a couple here. It's a 54 Evinrude Fleet Twin, 7.5. This motor runs. Most of these motors run. A lot of them are close to done or done. This one I do have to put a new impeller in. I was really surprised at how quick this pushed my 14-foot Starcraft around. It actually goes along pretty good. And I also noticed 54, I think it was 55 would be the first year. Maybe not, because actually this is a 54 Johnson 10 horse. This one I haven't even done anything to it. It looks rough, but I had one of these and that thing was fast. But they had the little hole here where you could set up for your steering. And I noticed this one is definitely 54. And this is also open case. There is no belly pan or whatever you want to call it here. This is all open here. Same with this one. So you can see this one's round and it does not have the hole to set up for the old cable steering. And this one is this is interesting. This is a nice little motor. This is a 1965 Merc 60. Yeah, I can get a view of that. She's in really nice shape. This actually came on my 14-foot Starcraft. And you'll notice in the picture that Brand was just taking, we got the gold lettering, trim here, and the gold lettering on the side. This is a 25th year anniversary for Mercury. And, let's see, this handle here, this chrome handle, I remember these big time. They must have sold a ton of these motors. These were 64 and 65. And mainly what I do is the small stuff, so I'm not familiar as much with the bigger ones, but I think they fall under the same idea that 64 or 65 were these chrome handles. So if you see one of these somewhere, that's more than likely what year it is, 4 or 5. And if it's got the gold lettering, it's a 65. And I do happen to have, these were all twins. I don't have the 35 horse, but this one is model 66 horse. We'll move to this one here. Again, 65. It's got the gold and the gold lettering. This is a model 110 or a 9.8 horsepower. This is a good running motor. I put some new bearings in this motor. Rebuilt the lower unit, which is something we're probably going to do in a video at some point too. And like I say, most of this stuff that I work on, this is all old stuff, 60s, 50s, in that era. So I'm doing it hoping that it's going to help somebody out if they come across one of these motors and say, hey, I want to give it a whirl, whatever. We'll do some videos, hopefully going to help you to get them up and running. And I'll tell you, once they run really good. And again, you can usually buy them cheap. This one here, both of these here, these are also Merc 110s. These are all white Mercs. 63 was the last year that I'm aware of that they were all white. And this one, ironically, we'll swing over, Brandon. Look at that one there. You take a good look at this. This is a 110, 9.8 horsepower. This one here is a 19. Both of these are 1962s. And this replaced that end motor right there, that Merc 100. So you look at the size of this, and I wish I could tell you the weight. I'm not exactly sure. I believe it's around 70 pounds or so. I could be wrong. I'll double check that. But you look at the size of that thing, and if I pulled the power head and showed you the motor, and then showed you this, I mean, this thing looks like it's half the size. These are not quite as powerful as that other one, but they're nice little motors though, and they're also not what they call the auto tranny motor. These are your normal water pump is down here in the lower unit, and forward, neutral, reverse. This would be more of what you might call a normal lower unit. It's easy to couple bolts and this thing comes off, and your impeller's in there, and they're easy to do. They're easy to work on, and that stuff is still available. The impellers and things like that. We'll move over to this one. This is also, again, 65. This is a model 39, 3.9 horsepower. It's the first motor my son here that's filming actually drove on a rowboat. Probably when he was about 10 years old. That's about how old I was when I started. Yeah, it's got the gold lettering and everything. So this is a nice, nice little motor. I think they paid like $100 for it. Most of them, that's usually, you know, I don't know about the last few years and with COVID. I know things have changed around a little bit. I was actually online looking around last night. I saw some that were actually kind of cheap. So I think you can still pick stuff up like that for a reasonable amount of money. And if they turn over, there's a very good chance it's going to run. This is the only one. My brother actually picked this up, and this thing gave us a heck of a time. And we finally got it running, but he ended up pulling the motor apart and rebuilding and everything. And then he just gave up on it. So I basically took it on for parts. But because I have another one of these upstairs. So I actually got 3 of these. And I also have a Model 60, 6 horse, same style as this. That's a 1962. And that's an awesome motor. That motor, I'm really surprised. It'll smoke that 6 horse right there. This one here. It's amazing how much quicker that one is. But and one other thing about it too, I mentioned that these Mercs, in '59 they went to all white. The couple years earlier, 57, 58. I'll show you one of those in a minute here. A lot of times the lower end, midsection and lower unit was white, and they came with different color covers. And a lot of guys, evidently back in those days, that's before my time, they tend to paint the covers maybe to match the boat. They weren't. I know Mercury offered evidently a lot of different colors, but I've got one for sure that I don't think Mercury ever offered in that motor, and I think someone just took the time and painted it and lettered it and to match his boat. And actually, that particular motor, the guy used to race it on the Hudson River. We'll show you that one a little bit. I got a couple over here. This is a beautiful motor right here. I really like this motor. This is a 1961 Sport Twin, Evinrude. Put that handle down, you see a little better. This thing's in really nice shape. I don't have the lower unit on it right now. It needs to be rebuilt. I got a little work to do to that. The top's been done, new coils, points, condenser, wires. Carb's been redone. I find a lot of these old ones, when I find them, they haven't been touched in a long time, and the coils are cracked. A lot of times the carburetor has the cork float in there, which you're going to want to change. One of the problems that's really killing a lot of us is the ethanol fuel. Not going to get into it too much, but and it's kind of been around, I guess, longer than we could say. I dealt with it way back in the late 70s when I first started driving, and we had a Mustang at the time, and it running gasohol. To me, it's the same stuff. And the alcohol is just, it's horrible what it can do to seals. It's another thing I noticed myself, and I'll show it to you in a video here at some point, but I changed all the fuel lines, upgrade the fuel lines, I upgrade the fuel pump, whatever I can do that's ethanol, so that the stuff that we're part of the fuel lines and stuff are ethanol friendly. Otherwise, you're liable to start finding black crap in your carburetor and causing problems. So I try to upgrade that stuff, and I haven't had any issues yet since I've been doing that. This one is a 56 Evinrude 7.5 Fleet Twin, very similar to the one you saw over there. You can see the difference. This one here, you can hook up there's a bracket that goes on here for your steering. Obviously, there's no power head in here. It's sitting down there. So that's a project that needs to be put back together. And also, while we're looking down here, Brian, this is it's a 10 horse or a 15 Merc. It's a Merc 100 or 150 motor power head that I picked up for a spare. The only difference for the most part is the carburetor that I'm aware of. I was told that maybe the reed plate could be different too. I'm not sure on that. But that's actually, I've run that motor. It's a good running motor. It's got good compression. We got a 74 4-horse here. Just a nice little running motor. This is something that might end up getting sold. I don't really use it. Rather have the bigger motors, to be honest with you. This is a beautiful, as far as I know, or all original. I'm going to say it's a 57. When you look up the serial number, which is right here, the serial number, they don't specify 57 or 58. I think if you find a 107, 108, can you see the number on there? I forget how low this one is.
It's not picking it up too good.
I'll take a look and see. It's the earlier ones I refer to as it's a 106 number. So I've seen them. I think I've seen them up in the 112 numbers. I'll say a 106 is a 57, and you get into a higher number, it's 58. I don't know where the break off is, but they really don't. I haven't seen anything that specifies that. But it's original paint, as far as I know. I got this out of the Poconos with one of those white motors there. It's actually upstairs in my office. And I paid $150, I think it was, for the two of them. This one needed some work. This is an auto tranny motor, and one way you can tell is this cover right here. There's little pawls in there that actually activate those springs I showed you earlier. Like I said, we're going to kind of concentrate on these. This is a good running motor. I've had this motor out quite a bit, and I love it. It scoots right along, and a lot of the old timers get a kick out of it. Before we get to this one, Brian, we'll just take a quick, I don't know if you can get this one. And this is the other 1965 twin. This is going to be the fourth one I showed you, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is a 20 horse. These are hard to find. I got this up in Rochester. Again, the gold lettering. Merc 200, if you can see it, I don't know. But right here with your gold. This motor runs very well. I do have an issue with the lower unit on this. Somebody, I think, had this rigged up with a shift and steering. I know that they did, and the throttle and all that. And I think when they put this back together, something's out of whack here. I've had the lower unit apart. I did rebuild it. I put a new impeller in it. I'm having some issues with the it acts like the prop is slipping. So maybe if there's some old timers that see this video, and you guys might know something I don't, I'm sure you do. I'm not going to claim, I'm not a mechanic by any means, outboard mechanic by any means, but I had the lower unit apart. The gears look fine, the clutch dog looked fine, and this motor even has a new prop on it. I went as far as to buy a new prop, so you can tell that's new. And I got a couple old ones up here. I got this 3-blade, and I believe this 2-blade was on it. One of these was. And what's funny is at a low RPM, it pushes the boat along, and you just start to get on the throttle, and the thing breaks loose. One of them was a little bit better. they could get a little bit more speed. And then I said, I'm going to get a new prop. I found one, I put it on there, and I almost got the boat up on plane. But it still ends up breaking loose. So something, I'm not sure if it's going into gear all the way. I'm going to find out when I pull a lower unit apart. I hope I didn't ruin any gears. Luckily, I bought a parts motor for this for $50. And the lower unit looks good. It's just, it was a long shaft motor. So I do have some parts for this. And there would be something we will do with that. As a matter of fact, this, I believe, is the impeller that came out of that motor. Obviously, it was sitting for a while, and this is what happens. They sit, and they get stuck like this. I'm sure you've all seen what a newer impeller looks like. You know, and these do fold, and they sit and they're offset. So what happens is, when it sits in the pump, it's offset to one way. So you will see, if this thing was a little softer, these might be out further, and over here they're crunched over pretty good, and that's just how they work. And when they get stuck like this, and this comes around, obviously it'd be this way. When this comes around, these are stuck like this, and they're not hitting the outside of the pump housing. And then obviously it doesn't pump the water that well. So these impellers, I don't know if we can see this on the camera. There's a square where the keyway goes. This is a square keyway. This is the part number for this impeller. This fits the Mark 10s. Let's see, Mark 10s, Mark 28, 10A, 15A, 28A, 100, 150, 200. Those earlier auto training Mercs I'm showing you. This is one here. It also is the same impeller for this 65 Merc, and I'm sure probably some other motors as well. These are not made anymore. This one happens to have a date on it of 10/21/02, and that's the newest I've seen. I know they're no longer available. Sometimes they pop up on eBay, $40, $50. But what you can do, and I haven't seen anybody talk about this, I've seen it in comments maybe, or in what do you call them, blogs. That's kind of how I found out about it. This pump is a Sierra, and that's part number 18-3008. Okay, this impeller is the same size, same shaft, and if these were extended out, that would match up. Here's the difference, and I might have to probably pull it out of the packaging, which, you know what, we'll do that real quick here. What we'll show you here is that this actually goes on other Mercs, and I forget which ones. I don't remember. Maybe a Merc 20 or a Mark 20, Mark 25, maybe something like that. I forget exactly. Let me get that out of there. So here is this keyway, and you'll see that this one is rounded. Can you see that, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
And whereas this one is, oops, let me turn this. This one is a square keyway, which is on these auto training motors. So what I've done is, and you can stay there, look at that if you want. I'm going to grab this real quick, hopefully. I meant to get this out, I forgot. Choose you right here. There we go. So what I've done is I bought a file, small file like this, and I just grinded it down on a bench grinder. Okay, but you got your teeth on the side here, and what I'll do, actually was messing around with this one. You can see I started to cut the keyway here. Again, when we do, we're going to be doing some videos on this very soon, and I just run this in here, and I've done it. Sometimes I'll set it right here, and you just get it started, get it going, try to keep it straight, keep it smooth, keep working away at it. And then what you'll do is you'll take your drive shaft, which is right here. I don't even know if this has a keyway on it. I would be very careful not to go too far, because I have not had one broke, but I saw a video or something somewhere where a guy did break one. But what I'll do is I'll just keep working that. and I keep coming over here until I can finally get it to slide on. You can see the keyway here, and I get it. I don't want it super tight, but I want it kind of snug. Definitely don't want it too loose, and I definitely don't want to cut into it too far. Because what happens is, when you're ready to put this together, this impeller is going to be way up in here inside a housing. Actually, it's right about here somewhere. Then this has to drop down, and then you're going to have to turn this, get this keyway, line up with this impeller that's down in there. And if it's super tight, you're going to have a tough time getting that in there. But that's a little trick right there that we can figure to just bring that up today. That it's just supposed to be an introduction to some of what I got here, but I just figured I'd give someone a heads up, because if you are messing with something like this, or maybe one of these Merc 200s, 65, like when I have a 65, 20 horse, it's the same impeller, and it does have this keyway. Actually, I find that one tougher to do than these, as far as messing with the impeller. It's fun with the keyway, but anyways, so that's the number. You can get yourself a little file if you want. It's pretty cheap. Grind it down so that you get it, you know, so it's close to the width of the keyway, or your old impeller you can use to, you know, till you get it where you need that to be. And again, I'll show that real quick. Sierra, these are still available. 18-3008, and that is a big plus for me, because when I first got into messing with some of these, I didn't know about that, and I was trying to find these original impellers on eBay, and they don't come around that often. And I thought, geez, I can pick these up cheap. I thought I would like to do more, but I was almost talking myself out of it, because you know, they were hard to find, and until I found this little trick. But this one right here real quick is this is an interesting motor. I meant to grab the cover. Maybe I can grab that after, but it's very similar to that Mark 28 down there on the end. It's got the same front part of the cover. The cover on this thing is absolutely beautiful. I was looking for one of these for a while. I found this in New Hampshire. It had some issues. This, let's see, this right here, the saddle, I think they call that a saddle, I'm probably in the way, was broken up in here. And there's a big pin that goes through here, all the way up into here. I had a parts motor. It was actually a Merc 100 I bought for $60. And that's why this is painted. I don't normally paint the motors. I like them in their original form, how I get them. They got history to them, and yeah, they got some scratches and some dings, but it just shows they were used, and I like them better that way myself. This one I ended up painting because I had it so far apart that, and this was like 3 different colors, so I thought, you know, the shocks were all rusty, and so I thought, you know what, I'll probably paint this one. Not to mention, like I say, the cover is really nice. The lower unit, yeah, it's right here. The lower unit, this motor was dropped. That's a problem. And while this could probably be repaired, you'll see there's a big notch here, big notch here. There was talk that maybe the prop got a hold of a stone or something and threw that up. And if you've ever seen a lower unit, actually, I'm going to compare this brand new at it with this one. So here's your normal, what I would call a normal lower unit. This is this off a 64 Merc Model 60 6-horse. You can see this impeller. I don't know if you can see it, but that's in really bad shape. That thing's busted up. Here's the base to that right here. I'll put this one next to it, and you see some big differences here. This has a gear and a bearing here on the top, and this is what would turn this turns a propeller. I don't know if you can see that. Should I bring the light more? And the transmission I showed you earlier with the springs and stuff sits on top of this. And sometimes you have to shim these. I'm going to end up having to do it because I'm not using this lower unit. I found a lower unit. I forgot about that light. I found a lower unit for this. That was actually off the same exact motor, a Mark 28. That is a 59 Mark 28 AD. Actually, I'll leave this right here. That's an AD. I was looking for one of those for a while. They're quite interesting. The power head is a 22 horse. This is 59 is first year. I was telling you how Merc went to all white Mercs. However, this particular cover, I think they had them in a green color. This one is a salmon color. It's in beautiful shape. And they only made this, I think, for half a year. I think this was, I don't know that they made a ton of these motors. And what's different about it is it has these little, what appear to be shock absorbers on here. I did replace all the rubber bushings. I was able to find those. And these were common on the bigger motors. I had a 1965 horse that had these. I know a lot of the, 110s and like that, them 6-cylinder motors, the skyscraper motors had these also. But they were not on the little motors, which is primarily, obviously, that's pretty much all I work with. I do have one big, I got a V6 Black Max 135, more or less 135, that I run on a Checkmate. But these weren't on the small motors. For some reason, Mercury did this for just a short, like I say, it was maybe 6 months or something. And then the latter, I don't know, they might have been doing them from the beginning of the year. The 59 Mark 28A was all white and did not have the shocks. But for some reason, part of the year, they did make these this way here, which I find interesting. And so I'm looking forward to getting this run. This will be something we'll be working on. I mentioned the shimming. I think I got that tool here. I can show you real quick. I'll bring it over there if I see it real quick. If I don't, well, we'll show it in another video. Usually it's sitting right here. Here it is. I've done a few motors with this. We'll get into this. I'll be showing this in the... I'm going to do a video on this. There's guys that have blown up the transmissions. If you're going to be changing stuff around, transmission's good in this. It did have the shims, but I'm switching the lower unit. And so basically you take this stud out and you have your transmission in here. Like I said, we're going to do a video on it, but I'll just show you real quick. This would go this way, right here. Drop this down in here, like so. This little piece here, you loosen this up, this will go up and down. Unfortunately, I got to put it this way, but that'll drop down, and then you're going to move this piece. It's going to go up to the bottom of your transmission where the two gears are. I'll show you that real quick here. If you're doing this, you have this in the unit without your springs. And this doesn't yet. Okay. And here's those two little gears I was showing you. And they mesh with the top of that lower unit we were showing you that has the one gear on it. That sits right in here. And these have to come together the right spot or you're going to have a problem. So, with that being said, this tool goes in here, you slide this down, it's going to hit the top of that transmission. That's where you want to set it. Lock this screw down. Now you bring this over. Just gave I got the bolt in here, so I can't stick it in there, but this basically is going to come in, sit in this hole here, and this hole back here. I'll get my arm out of the way here. This is going to drop down. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you know what? I got this backwards, don't I? No. Oh, I know what it is. This isn't. I got that up all the way. This piece here would be sitting out. This would be protruding out here part way. Like I say, we're going to do a video on it. And this would set in here. And this piece of metal is going to be close to where this is. And then you're going to take a feeler gauge. You're going to measure the difference between this piece in here. And whatever that is what you need for a shim. So we'll do a video on that. Because like I say, if you're changing parts around, I've seen a couple videos where guys have changed, or I just know of people that have changed the transmission, didn't shim it. I suppose a lot of times, if you got a good shot, you might be all right, because it's probably more in the casting than anything else. But I wouldn't want to go through the hassle of finding these parts and putting it together and not shimming it, and then finding out I blow the thing up. And now I don't know how long it's going to be before I find another lower unit. I think I spent $50 on eBay for the one I bought. And when I found it, I clicked on it. What I did is I saw it, clicked on the guy's page, I guess, to see what else he offered. And there I saw parts of, and that the actual Merc Mark 28 AD. He had the midsection sitting there, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. This lower unit is exactly on what I'm using. You can't only switch them around to some degree. You can't be putting that on a Merc 100 really per se. The gearing's different, but anyway, I got lucky and found it, and so I think I paid $50. I forget how the shipping went. So anyway, that's gonna be one we'll end up putting together soon. I'll show the shimming, and I'll show you how to get the housing out of there. The water pump housing. We'll get into the details of that. They are a little different. This setup here, actually this one is the same as this one, but the first white motors, I showed you the 100, the 150, the 200, that light went out, so I don't know if you can see it very well. These are a little different. It's the same idea, but the water pump is in the other way around. Which is quite interesting. It actually makes it. These are the easier ones to do of these auto tranny motors. Those will be the easiest ones. If you find one of those, that's going to be the easiest. These are a little more difficult. The Mark 10 over there with the red cover and this Mark 28 AD are a little more difficult. But yeah, we'll get into doing that one, and then I'll just show you a couple of things out here. We got an old pressure tank that I'm redoing. That's got a new pump in it, and I painted the tank because it was pretty nasty. It doesn't leak though, so we'll take a quick look at these. We got some Evinrudes here, 56 3-horse. This I used as a kid. This is where the love of it all kind of started. This bad boy's got a ton of hours on it. As a matter of fact, I had to pull this motor apart. It had got stuck. My brother was using it for fishing, right around 2000, 2001, 2, somewhere near. And he was out in Pennsylvania. We were missing this cover, so we were using a rope to start it. Actually, I think one of my relatives actually must have used this up at the lake. The pull rope broke. He brought it to a marina up there. I guess forgot about it. By the time my grandfather realized what was going on, the thing was gone. He found out where it was and all that, and the guy had sold it evidently. He'd been there for over a year. That's one of the problems. Sometimes you leave stuff at a place too long. But anyway, I found this one, and so we got the pull start on there. I pulled this motor apart. You cannot find rings for these things. So I had a donor motor, and I was able to save one piston and rings out of this. I took the crank, rod, and piston, one of the pistons out of the donor motor, and I was able to get, I believe I'm around 80 pounds of compression on it. It runs fine. I actually want to get some videos of my granddaughters driving this boat with this motor on here, because it would be their, let's see, that'd be their great-great-grandfather. Yeah, be their great-great-grandfather's motor. So here this thing's still running. So what, 70 years later, roughly, almost 60-something years later. So I'd love to get a video of them driving this. This is a Sport Twin, 10 horse. This one's a 57, I believe, right? Yeah, 57. This is an awesome running motor. I bought this for $100. The motor was stuck, but not bad. and I got it freed up. The throttle was stuck too. I took that all apart, cleaned it up. It's just a great running motor. I think I rebuilt the lower unit. I did. I rebuilt the lower unit on this one. I was getting water in the lower unit. I got one of these I got to do, so we're going to do a video on that. This is a 58 Sport Twin. Again, a 10 horse. You know, they're a little tight on this stand, so I can't show you the different lettering too well. But that's mainly where I notice it, is the lettering. This almost looks like block lettering. This looks like cursive lettering, and this is definitely block lettering. So a lot of times you see this, it's about a 56. This one looks like cursive writing almost, kind of. 57 and 58. This one is I believe that's a 61 18 horse Johnson. I paid $100 for this with that stand that black Mercury's on, which was a heck of a deal. The poor old timer that owned this, he had passed away. I bought it from his son. And his son was telling me his dad was running this on a rowboat on the river, 18 horse. And he got ejected from the boat. The boat ended up on shore. It didn't have a prop on. I believe the prop had gotten busted up, but the lower unit had been fine. So I bought a used prop from a guy here in town on the lake. Was a Johnson and then Evinrude dealer for a long, long time. And I don't know what's going on with Bombardier and Evinrude, and I know they haven't made them in a few years, I guess. And I guess we're all kind of hoping that somebody, I don't know, that it goes up for sale. Something happens with it and they get back up and running. But who knows what's going to happen. But thank God they're still making the parts. So, especially even for these older ones. One of the great things about these old motors, there's a ton of them out there. And most of the parts you can still get. Impellers, all that stuff still being made. There's some things that are getting hard to get. But for the most part, you can be pretty confident about buying something like this. Getting the average parts that you might need and keeping it running, and they're great running little motors. This one, I put a lot of time into this. I bought the tool to actually set the coils. This thing purrs like a kitten. And so this one, I had gotten this up and running, but now it needs an impeller. So I got to do an impeller on this. And I got to replace one of the coils. So I get back to work on that one. This one, Brandon can't get much of a, I don't know, if I turn it down, no, this way. How's that? You can kind of see the side of it. This is a interesting motor. This is a 51 Evinrude Big Twin. 2-cylinder, 25 horse. Kind of an interesting motor. The covers were screwed on instead of a couple little snaps and they pop open. You got a couple screws back here and this plate drops down. And you can have access to the spark plug, so you can change the spark plugs pretty easily. This one, very interesting. Pull this plate off, and there's your connector for the shifter for your lower unit to do the impeller, and it ties in with this. This piece had broke. The screw was corroded, and it snapped off. I tried drilling it, and then I'm like, wow, trying to figure out how to get this thing apart. Well, I virtually had to pull. I pulled the power head, I had the lower unit off. I pulled a lot of it apart to get that piece out of there. And I was able to find one on eBay for, I don't even remember, $20, $25, something like that. Also, while I was in there, I realized this piece here was busted really bad. And I think one of the things that used to go on with a lot of these older motors is when these things were in forward, they weren't latched. I believe, let's see, is this latch? Well, it's loose on the, so in forward you could lift this up. And one reason they did that is if you hit a log or something in the water, you know, you didn't bust up the lower end of the motor, I guess. It would just kind of flip up and then come back down. I think that's what happened. I don't know, my dad told me he kind of went from forward to reverse one time and back to forward probably a little too fast. He thought maybe he might have broke it. But the end of this, where it sits up on here on a tilt pin, these ears or whatever on the end up in here were busted bad, and real bad. And that's evidently a common problem because I've seen some of these on eBay and they're busted or they've been re-welded and not really the greatest job done. I found this on eBay. I bought a carburetor for this, just actually for the knobs. And anyway, so I bought this piece from the guy. Put this motor back together. It runs really nice. I have not had a boat I can run it on where I can run it wide open, and I'm really kind of would like to try it. I can't. I put it on my 14 Starcraft, but it sits awful low in the water. It's rated for 18 horse, and this thing's kind of heavy, and I wouldn't dare try to run it around. But I did buy an old 13-foot. It's a weird number, 7 inches or something, Duratec, which I believe were made in New York, and that's a 5-foot wide boat. It's got the ribs on the bottom, real beefy transom on it. So that's my goal, is get that boat up and running this year and try this 25 horse on it. My grandfather would get a big kick out of that. This motor, the last year it was run was 1971, and he passed away in the later 90s. A couple of my aunts ended up at the cottage. These were sitting there, this and this 3-horse had been sitting there, and I brought this one home. My brother took the 3-horse. I got that running, and he used it for fishing. I brought this home and got this one running. I just haven't had anything to run it on, and since then I had bought this for $75. I bought it for parts, but it's complete, and it could probably run. And the serial number on these doesn't specify 51 or 52, but I found out, I think this one, the serial number says 2001, I believe, as I recall, and this one says 2012. So I'm assuming this is 52, this is 51, and I think in 53 they beefed up this piece here. As a matter of fact, now that I think about that, this is off of 53. This is much beefier than probably even that one. I don't know if that I can open that up or not, but I definitely know the 53 and 4s, they beefed them up so they weren't as likely to break. And at some point, like I say, on forward, maybe neutral on these, I'm not positive. These motors can be tilted up, but when you put it in reverse, the shift piece I was talking about moves this rod here and locks this in so that when you back up, obviously you don't want the motor coming up on you. And then it all works off the shifter. Same with the Mercs. But I believe in neutral they're locked in too, because you're pulling the pull start. And actually that's some of the last ones to show you here. I got these are Mark 10s, these 3 here. I believe they're all 57s. One could be a 58. This is the one I was telling you. It came out of Albany. It was run on the Hudson Racer. The guy's uncle, the guy I got it from, was 60. His uncle had passed away. It was sitting in the basement for like 40 years. And he must have painted that green like that, because I don't believe they came that way. And he did the lettering and stuff. But he used to run this on some type of boat, race it on the Hudson River. And these little motors, they cook. They're supposed to be a 10 horse, and they blow away any 10 horse I've ever run. They're as heavy as they are and everything like that. And the same with this, I don't know, burgundy colored one, I guess. I don't think that was a color that was offered either. That's I think someone painted that one too. And this one, this red one here, that did come that way, and that one is all red. Even the midsection, the lower unit, those are kind of hard to find. And they also had a gray one. I see those around. I've never gotten my hands on one, but so I got the red with the white base. It's got the all red, and it'd be kind of cool to get an all gray one. And I think I would have the gist of those as far as colors go. But the one to the left here is a Merc 200. That's a 61. They went, as far as these ones go, that's the first time we went to like a decal. The other ones I first showed you earlier have ribs in it, up and down, I think it was. But anyways, this is a decal. That's a good running motor. I bought that up in New Hampshire. That's a 22 horse. I really didn't have to do much with that. I put an impeller in it. I believe it had spark. I might have cleaned the points up, but I really didn't have to do too much to them. Which reminds me, whoop, you all right?
Yeah.
Which reminds me, we'll get into some of these when you get gaskets and things for them. The I'll put some part numbers out there, but I can get the same gasket for those Mark 10s. This is, well, it says 7.5, but same gasket kit for this. I believe it's 1399-1717. You can buy them for, I don't know, we'll say $15. You get the gaskets. You can pull the carb off. You can clean it up. You got the gaskets to put it back together, and the only other thing you need is the needle and seat kit. When I go to do one of these, I'll provide the number. I got a friend that just bought a kit. Now I don't think we could get the gasket set for it. Was the problem? We had to go with the bigger carburetor kit, which was like $50 or $60. Whereas I can buy just the gaskets for 10 or 15, and about another 10 or 15 for the needle and seat, and that's all you really need to put the carburetor back together. This is an interesting little motor. These things are, some of you guys are going to recognize this. The Thunderbolt ignition. This is a 70 or a 71. I forget which year exact. And I got a 20 horse back there. We didn't really show it. This same coloring, the red ribbons on it, or whatever you want to call them. 75, model 75. It's a 7.5 horse. These motors are, here, I'll turn it that way. These motors are, now these motors are the same bore and stroke, the 7.5 and your 9.8. So one of the things I did do with this is I did find a carburetor on eBay, and so it's technically a 9.8 now, but that's always fun if you run up across a 7.5 on the lake, you know. Yeah, it's a 7.5. Just don't open it up all the way and smoke the guy too bad. But at any rate, I bought this for $35. I went and looked at this north of here, and a lady was having a tag sale. She had it listed on Craigslist, but she was having a tag sale. So I went up there with my brother. He was up visiting, and we went up there and saw this thing. And it turned over. The pull rope was bad, and I fixed that. But $35 was covered with sawdust. The problem with these is I think you call it a stator, I guess, but they started getting with some electronics in here. So this has points. It's got coils, but it's also got this, I wish I could remember what you call it, but I'm going to call it a stator anyways. It's got a couple wires off of it that run over. I think one goes, could be ground or goes to your kill switch. I forget now. And the wiring was in horrible, horrible shape, which is a common thing with these. And it's not cheap. They run up into that. It was only 2 years that they used, I think, that they used that block piece. Then they went to a different kind of a setup. But the wires run in there. They're hardwired in. Maybe someone knows a trick to doing that. Goes into like this hard jelly stuff. I taped it up and got it running, and I did actually buy a new piece for it. It was like $300. So I was glad I got it running now, and I know it's got like 140 on both cylinders, great compression. It's a great running little motor. I did rebuild the lower unit on this one. It was getting water in there. But I thought, hey, for $35, I'll put a couple dollars into it, and once I saw how it ran, I thought, yeah, okay, I'll replace that ignition piece. This one here is another one of those all white Mercs. This is an interesting stand right here. This guy went through he made his own little plaque here. It says Mercury. And this stand actually came with that burgundy Mark 10 over there in the corner. And I paid $200. That motor was a running motor. We fired it up in his tank at his house. He had a bunch of old Mercs. He was more into the earlier 50 stuff. Anyway, I got the motor, the stand, and some of the tools for doing the water pumps on these. This is another one like that one I was showing you in the back. This motor is kind of cool. It's the first year he went with the all white. If I can turn this, it's a little stiff. You'll see it had the blue lettering. You can see all the scars and nicks. And its years of life. But the yellow, bluish lettering on there. I think this is really funny. It reminds me of that Martian guy, Bugs Bunny or whatever. But this is 59 Mark 10A. Okay, and a couple of things I didn't explain. I'll just do this real quick. This, your shifter, okay, is on the handle here. Neutral, and you turn it. It goes into forward, and then when you come back, if this works correctly, okay, it didn't work. This button's supposed to keep it, so when you come back to neutral, you actually are supposed to push this button in to go into neutral. I believe that's what it was. Because what was happening is people were coming down real quick with the handle, maybe in a panic, coming up to a dock, passing neutral and going into reverse and blowing the transmissions on the thing. Or another thing I've seen, you got troll, run, and start for this lever. So you go to start this, you move this all the way over like so. Get the thing fired up. Your choke is under here. I always leave them on so nothing can get in there. But, well, nothing too big anyway. But then you can bring this back down, and this would be where you probably would, say typically run it. When you have this in gear, you can go into troll mode. This works the throttle without using this. And you can really idle these things down where they just barely are running when you got them running right. It's very interesting. And it's a little access hole here for adjusting your fuel mixture. They did away with that in 63. There's a 60, and 62 rather. This 61, you see, still has it. This has a fixed high-speed jet. It was this year here. If you had an early 59, I believe these had a high-speed adjustment like you do on here. That hole right there. Which makes it interesting, because when you get these things going wide open and you got to fool around with that thing, it's a little sketchy trying to get that adjusted and hang on to the boat. Mid-59, they went to the fixed jet on these and kept it after that. So this is a cool little motor. I don't remember what I paid for it. This thing, poor thing, was sitting outside, no cover on it. Flywheel was all rusted up. I think I gave the guy $75, maybe $100 for it. I'd really like to find a 15A. This is the 10A. Actually, when I went to look at it, the guy said it was a 15A until we found the cover. Realized it's a 10A. This thing with my son in here, I've put on a few pounds, but 3-4 years ago, I had to get that in there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
We GPS this, I think it was at 19 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it was. Which I was really impressed with 2 adults in a 14-foot Starcraft rowboat. Not, like I say, it's a shallow. It's not a deep V or nothing like that, but it really pushed it along really, really well. And that's just about it. I got, I almost forgot. We got these we wanted to take a quick look at. And why don't we do this real quick? I forgot about these. I don't know if we can see them. But I got a couple here. It's a 55 Johnson 10 horse. Interesting on this with the lower unit. We'll get into something on that. I'll have to, when I pull one apart, I've seen guys lose a thrush washer that goes on the gear on these things. That's what happened to this. Someone had this lower unit apart. When the gear oil's on it and stuff, you can't really tell that it's separate. It looks like it's part of the gear, and it's not. There's a separate washer in there, and I've had a couple motors that those were missing. And then what happens is they put it back together, and things jumping out of gear, and I don't know, I guess one of us backyard mechanics is doing it, and, it made you give up on it. I don't know. My neighbor actually bought this at a tag sale, and he kept it around for, I guess to look at that thing, not yard art, but whatever.
Lawn ornament. Lawn ornament.
Lawn ornament kind of thing. Yeah, he had it in his basement. It came with that stand I got in there. When he sold the house and moved, he said, "Hey, I'll sell it to you." I wanted to see the thing run. It was nice to look at, but this one was infested with mice. This is 62 Evinrude Sport Twin 10 horse. It's a cool little motor. I got that up and running. I think the lower unit was good on that. replace fuel lines. This one's actually got the upgraded fuel pump. You can't get rebuild kits for these fuel pumps on these. I probably should have showed you that on the other motor. I'm sure this video is getting a little long too, but anyway, so you gotta break down and spend like, you know, $100 or whatever they are, unless you want to get with a cheap one. I would seriously suggest not doing that on virtually anything. I see guys buy these Chinese coils, and yeah, they work, you know, and yeah, you can get them for $10 or whatever the heck it is. You can buy coils for these for, I think, around 25 bucks, and they're the OMC Evinrude Johnson coils. They're way better. And it seems that where you have the problem is starting and idling. That I've just heard from other guys. Usually when I do something, I try to do whatever the original equipment stuff is if I can. Then we kind of get into doing whatever we have to. Like this old, I think this is a 56 or 7 Scott Atwater, 3.6 horse. These used to have a cool looking round knob on here for the pull rope. This is for like a lawnmower. This is a buddy of mine's motor. He asked me if I could get it running for him, so I just got to get a hold of him and he can pick this up. But it's a pretty cool little motor. It sat for quite a long time, but it's pretty cool. Not something I myself would grab, but you know, there's a lot of them out there. So that'll pretty much do it on that. I do have this sitting here, but I gotta put this together. This is a 200 Merc. This motor, new pistons, it's bored 15 over. I got to get this back together. Someone put this together, and I don't think they lubricated the bearings, the needles, or anything, and they fired it up, and they ruined this rod and the crank. This is a used crank out of another motor. So I actually got one of these pistons. They're usually around $125. One of these I got for like $12. It was up for bid, and I put in a bid and I got it. The other one was $115, I believe. They came with the rings, the pin. So I'm putting new bearings on it, new seals, all that. We'll get that back together and up and running. And then these books. So I was going to mention these. This one here, when I first bought the Merc 150 that we initially showed you, it's on the page, our picture of our website, I guess. I got this from a guy out in Wisconsin, and I could probably give out his name. He's got a website, but I'd rather talk to him about that first. So I got to call him, but he really hooked me up with knowledge, parts, and I don't remember if I paid for this or if he gave this to me, sent this to me. I think I paid $10 for it or something. And he owned a Mercury dealership for quite some time, and he's recently sold it. But these, you can find these on marineengines.com. As far as you look up your motor, and they'll have these pictures or whatever you want to call it, and showing all the different part numbers. Okay, what they're called. You'll see I wrote some numbers here. This should be a bearing. It is. This number is no longer available. What do they call that? They switch a number anyways. So this number converts out to this number, and this is current. And I add these to my books, the few that I've got, when I'm getting parts. This is a crankcase seal, current. O-ring is current. Different things. One of the pages I'll just show you here is that auto tranny. And this shows you how, this is for a Merc 150, for a 60 and 61. Shows you how it goes together. You got what all the pieces are called. This is it. See, I didn't change this number. You can still get this part number. This is just an O-ring. It goes up on the top right here. And so on, so down the line. This is another O-ring. No, that's an oil seal. I'm sorry. That number's been changed. That is a current number. This is an O-ring, and that's a current number. That actually goes on this little rod down here. But anyways, these are very helpful if you happen to, I don't know, for $10 or $15, you know, if you see it on eBay, it's up to you if you want to get one. It does show everything exploded apart, you know, the part numbers, if there's something you got to replace, carburetors on here. There might even be 2 carbs on this one. I forget. No, fuel pump. Excuse me. So there's a lot of stuff. A hood. Here's your ignition. You can still, these coils are, I believe, are going NLA. They're expensive as heck, but you can get them. But they're very rarely bad. And you can even squeeze them. These things will be soft as heck. And new ones are hard, and they still work. I got plenty of motors that you would think the coil wouldn't even work. And the only reason I've changed some of them is because the plug wire is bad. And you go to pull the plug wire out of here, and the pin goes with it because it's so rusty. There's just nothing left in there, and now you have to replace it. But other than that, if you don't have to touch the plug wires or replace those coils, leave them alone. They're expensive, and they usually seem to run fine. And there's your hood. So there's that. You got, I got another one I bought for Merc 60, the 6-horse. Same exact thing. But like I say, you go on marineengines.com, you can see these schematics or pictures, and that works out pretty well. This one I bought, there's a couple different books here. This one I bought from the guy out in Wisconsin. I don't know that you can find these anymore. I think he has someone making them. But, and this really comes in handy when you're messing with these auto trannies, with the springs. Here's some special tools. Here they are using that tool to get the lock ring out. Here's the pawls and these little springs that actually hit up against these springs and makes the whole thing work. And it explains it. It's a little hard to follow your first time, but I was able to get it done. And yeah, here's those springs in here. Here's your shift rod, and it works these little pawls in here, and these springs just push those pawls back to where they belong to keep pressure on it. But a lot of interesting stuff in here, and there's carb specs in here, which actually that motor I just showed you for a 200, I've got a bigger carburetor on that, and when you look the numbers up in here, it went to Merc 50. I forget what year, but around that time frame, maybe late 50s, early 60s. That motor, it's a 22 horse, but with the carb change, it's probably like gotta be at least 25. That thing rips. It'll smoke that 200 right there. I've run it, and now I'm rebuilding the motor, and it's bored. I gotta get that back together and run that again. It'd be really cool to do that, but it's got a bigger carb on it. It is fast. I haven't GPSed it because I don't dare let go of the boat and try to hang on to the motor and hang on to a camera and try to like get the GPS or whatever the case may be. And then here's an Evinrude Johnson one. This covers a lot of the bigger Mercs too. A lot of very cool information in the very back of that. Horsepower, years, serial numbers. You can kind of figure out what year your motor is off of that. This one, I don't think so. But hand rewind starter applications. They got gear case capacities, how to pull apart the different gear cases, how to rebuild a motor. These come in, is it this one? No, that's power head specifications. There's one in here I look at a lot for timing. These things are pretty easy to time, these older ones. Capacities, it's right here. Here we go. So say you got a 58. This book goes 5872. So you got a 10 horse. There's a Johnson number. Here's your Evinrude number. If if your number happens to fall there, then it's a 58, and so on and so forth. Primary pickup. This is for when you're syncing the carburetor with the ignition, so to speak. Shows you what in the page here, what to look for. Primary pickup, different things. This shows about pulling the lower unit part. This is one thing that got me, guys, is 4,000, 4,500 RPM wide open throttle, so to speak, right here, is what a lot of these old Evinrude Johnsons did. And actually, I remember a buddy of mine was telling me right here, 69, will it be in this? Yeah, you'll see right here. 69, the 25 horse. Okay, and one of the reasons they were coming up with this power, from what I understand, is look at the RPM difference, 5,500 RPM. That's the only one I can find in here that turns that kind of RPM, unless maybe get into a bigger motor, but which is back further. I don't think so. Anyway, I thought he always told me. He said he had one, and he told me, yeah, that's one of the things different about it. It's the wide open throttle. A lot of people are setting them up for around 4,500. They figure they're turning too much RPM. He goes, and that motor's actually made to turn that RPM. So you're kind of screwing it up if you don't. Whereas a lot of these Mercs, I find interesting, wide open throttles 5,500 on virtually almost all of them, which is very interesting to me. And probably one of the reasons I like them all. Evinrude, Johnson, Mercury. I really like these auto training motors the best for whatever reason, but they probably wore out quicker. They did run the needle bearings in virtually all of these motors that I got, whereas the 3s and your 7.5 Evinrudes didn't. It was a bearing more like we'd find in a car motor. And once they're worn out, they're worn out. I don't think there's any replacing that. They're molded right into the casing, so I think you're kind of in trouble when and if those bite the dust. Also in this book, and now I'm going to close this out. In this book, when I'm not going to try to find it, but somewhere I was just showing you that it'll say, this is a common question. I see this a lot. What to run for an oil fuel mixture? I'm not going to get into too much of that because, again, I'm just a backyard mechanic and I do what I think's right and what I feel comfortable with. And I can suggest stuff, but don't, it's not like this book. This manual says 50 to 1. I personally would not run 50 to 1 in those motors right there. As I remember as a kid, probably that black Merc back there would be 40 to 1 ratio. These were, as I recall, and you could pull up to the pumps, and at least the lake I used to go to New York, and they had, I believe the choice was, I want to say it was 24 to 1, but 24 to 1, 25 to 1. We'll say 24 to 1, 40 to 1, and then straight gas were the options at the stations when I was a kid back in the 70s. And we always ran 24 or 25 to 1 in these motors, even though this book says 50 to 1. A friend of mine, he runs his at 50 to 1. He's like, the metal's the same as now as it was then, whatever. I look at it more that, for one, the oil is way better today that you would run. The two-stroke oil is way better. Some of these motors back in the day, guys would use 30 weight non-detergent oil. And that's some thick stuff, I think, but it worked, and that's what they ran. So I wouldn't do it. I typically run, I want to say for the most part on all the motors I got, it's usually around 40 to 1. I don't really want to be polluting the lake a whole lot either by running too much oil, but to me, 50 to 1, I don't know. Even with the good oil, I'm just not sure about that. But, like I say, you guys do what you want. Those are usually your options. 50 to 1, 40 to 1, 25 to 1. I put a motor together. When I put this together, the gas that's in here is I don't even know if it's 20 to 1. Run it real heavy with oil till they more or less break it in. So, I guess probably leave it at that. We'll dig into some of these motors at some point. We're also going to do some... we'll run them on the boat. We're going to be putting the docks in here before too long, hopefully. I got 3 more I got to stain and then get those in and get the boats in and start hauling some of these down. Some of these I did last year. We'll just say I had a medical issue last year that put me out of commission for a little while. And I was able to get around at some point. And I was down here working on these motors, and I put about 4 or 5 together and never did run them. So I'm anxious to kind of get them out on the lake and run some of them. A couple of them are the ones that green covered one right there. So, and I got a couple in the back over there that were done. And I still got some to finish. And like I said, we're going to get into doing a couple of these. Hopefully it helps you guys out. Gives you a little history, I guess, on some of these. And it's always fun to just see the darn things because I just think they're cool. I started out with just a couple. I got this one for free. This for free. There's probably a couple other I got for free. And I started tinkering with them. I found, hey, I don't have a garage, so I can work on these in my basement. And yeah, I don't know. It turned into all these. So there's like 30 something of them. We didn't even show that one. I like that one. I think those are cool. First year for a fiberglass cover. It's a 50th anniversary for Evinrude. It's got the Golden Jubilee emblem on the back of it. This is an 18 horse. The lower unit's got to be replaced. They only did this square. Probably a lot of people think they're ugly, and I guess maybe they kind of are, but I think they're cool. I bought it cheap, and so I've done some work to it, but I got to finish getting it together, and it'll be fun to run that around. But it's interesting stuff there, though. What I thought was cool, 50th anniversary for Evinrude, first year for the fiberglass cover, so that's pretty cool. And with that being said, I guess we'll just see the next time we do a video. And I don't know if I'll be as lucky to have my son help me out next time, but if not, I'll set the thing up and we'll go through what we got to go through, and hopefully we can help steer some people in the right direction. At least from what I see, I don't know. There's just some things that get left out, and I mean, I could teach you how to change a tire, but if I don't tell you how to get the lug nuts off, I don't know. I think you're gonna be stuck on the road for a while. Wait for somebody to give you a hand. So, you know, I'm not saying, I don't mean anything bad towards anybody else. I don't mean it that way at all. I just know there's times I see they should have explained that or said something. I know it makes the video longer, but I know when I look up stuff, you know, there's some stuff I don't know about. I'd like to look it up and hopefully get shot in the right direction, and you can get it done and everything works out all right. So with that being said, we'll see you on the next one. It's going to be with the auto trannies, shimming, water pump. We'll get into some of that stuff and hopefully help somebody out. All right.